Welcome back to the show. This is Rose Unplugged. Joining us this morning, senior fellow with the Center for Security Policy. That's a Washington, D.C. national security think tank. He served for 25 years in national security posts with the Central Intelligence Agency and the DIA and the State Department and the House Intelligence Committee staff. You see him a lot on Fox. I do. I love seeing him there. He's the author of the book Putin's Reset, Obama Bomb, and Warning Order. His website is securefreedom.org, and he is Fred Fleitz. Hey, Fred, how are you doing?
Hey, Rose, good to be here.
That's great to have you. All right, I thought it would be really important to talk to you because I want to get your opinion on several things, but I want to start first with North and South Korea. They got together to discuss relieving military tensions between the two countries. You know, one of the things, and I know the presidents themselves didn't meet, but they had delegations that met. They met in that demilitarized zone in South Korea, but Fred, one of the things that concerns me is that I've never been real hip to the South Korean president. Is it Moon Jae-in? I'm not real impressed with him. I think he's wishy-washy, he's middle of the road, milquetoasty kind of thing. And that you can't have that in South Korea, not with North Korea right up there, you know, in the attic. So, Fred, how did you feel about the idea of the two countries meeting and trying to relieve tensions?
Well, I've given a lot of thought to this, and I have a slightly different take than some of my conservative friends. It's not uncommon to have wishy-washy South Korean leaders who try to appease the North. This has happened before.
I suppose, right.
But you know, the issue here is everyone's saying that Trump is making the situation with North Korea worse. Well, look, let's think about what happened here. This hotline between the two Koreas was cut off during the Obama administration. North Korea did not start threatening to attack us with nuclear weapons until Obama was president.
Well,
so
true.
This is what Trump inherited. So what do we have now? The two Koreas are talking. I don't think the talks are going to get anywhere, and I don't think North Korea going to the Olympics is going to improve their behavior. But you know what? They probably won't test any nuclear weapons or missiles for at least a couple of months, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
The talks might be pointless, but I don't want the North to test any more nuclear weapons, and maybe we'll get a pause in this while they continue to step up the pressure.
Oh, I really like how you're looking at that. Okay, that actually makes sense to me, because when you hear them say that they're talking about relieving military tensions, the way to do that is for Fat Boy to stop doing what he's doing. That would relieve a lot of military tensions.
That's right. And you know what? The reason why did the North Koreans want to turn that hotline on again? Because they're afraid.
Oh,
they fear President Trump. That's what we want. They did not fear Barack Obama at all. They walked all over him. The videos nuking Washington that the North Koreans put on the internet, they occurred during the Obama administration. Think about that.
That's, you know, you're making some very good points, but that's why we asked you to be on the show. So, all right. So I love that you think that it's a good idea that the North and South are talking, and it maybe does buy us some time. I mean, like, it's hard to say because the guy's crazy. I mean, here's the thing that really bothers me, Fred, when we go back to Trump being criticized and suggesting that he was mentally unstable because of the tweet that he put out regarding North Korea's button tweet. I mean, they sent out word that, hey, we've got a button right here on our desk and it's ready to go at any time. And what else should the president say? Oh, yeah, well, I've got a button too, and it's even bigger than yours, and I'm not afraid to use it, essentially. But after he said that, go ahead.
Just after he said that, they turned the hotline back on. They're afraid.
You don't hear that in the media, though. They don't talk about that. You know, and the thing is, who's mentally unstable here? Maybe the guy who's threatening to nuke everybody is the one who's mentally unstable. You know, and the thing is, in his mind, do you think he's been looking for, because I see him as this spoiled little brat who's been allowed to go and do anything he's ever wanted to do. And here's Daddy Trump saying, nah, you're not allowed to do that. It's not going to happen. And I almost feel like, because, I mean, and then your point that he opened up the hotline again immediately after that tweet, it's almost like he said, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like when you put your foot down with your kid, it almost has that kind of effect in my mind.
Well, I want to answer this. I want to answer what you said carefully. I have met someone who has met with Kim Jongun.
Okay.
I can't say who it is.
Okay, but it's not that basketball player, huh?
I'm not going to say who it is.
Oh, okay, all right.
I have not met the basketball player. That's all I'll say.
Okay, there you go.
And you know, I think the question of the North Korean leadership is complicated. Kim told this person, well, he made statements that suggest he's not in full control of the country.
Oh.
I'm not sure how competent he is. I'm not sure whether there is a secret ruling clique that he's part of. He made statements that, well, they won't let me do that.
Oh.
He did say he wants nuclear weapons because he's afraid he'll turn out like Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein to this person.
Okay.
But I think the question of the North Korean leadership is complicated. If he was to be assassinated, and I don't think the U.S. should assassinate people, that would not solve the problem. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. That's interesting. I'm taking notes as you speak. All right. So that's very interesting. So there's a lot I've just learned right now just in the first couple of minutes of this interview. All right. So that's good. Okay. So we're going to keep a close eye on all of that. And in the meantime, I'm sure this administration is planning and scheming and figuring out what they're going to do and how they are going to position themselves in this coming year.
I think that's right. And you know, there are even some people on the left who are admitting, you know, Trump's North Korea policy seems to be succeeding so far. I mean, they don't want a war, but they realize that he inherited an utter disaster from Obama, and we had to go in another direction. And, you know, we can't appease them again. That obviously doesn't work. I think that they understand strength, and I think that talk right now that we're thinking of attacking them to give them a bloody nose, that's extremely dangerous, but frankly, the day will come, and we've talked about this before, when I think the North will use those weapons to try to unify the peninsula on its terms.
Yes, I worry about that.
We don't want that day to come.
No, we do not. We absolutely do not. And again, well, you said that there's never really been anything but perhaps somewhat spineless leadership in the South, but I really see this guy as spineless all the way around. Were you surprised when one of the officials, I'm trying to think, I think the one from North Korea suggested that they broadcast those talks that they were having live to show how they're, you know, really trying to work with each other. I was a little surprised by that comment.
Well, first of all, in fairness, the North Korean government is just like ours. They swing back and forth between conservatives and liberals. The liberals happen to have the leadership of the country right now. That's going to change. I think that it was fairly foolish. You know, President Moon said when he ran for president that he would meet with Kim Jongun before he met with President Trump.
Yes, I remember that. That turned me off.
Happen, but it was a pretty outrageous and idiotic thing to say. So it doesn't surprise me he's doing this now. And he agreed to accept THAAD missiles to defend the country against North Korean missiles, and then he backed off because China complained.
Right.
This guy is not a pillar of strength.
No, he's not.
I don't think these talks really matter. I think they're sort of a distraction.
Right.
But if they stop the North from testing, that's a good thing.
Okay, well said. All right, let's jump to Iran, if you don't mind. As we go into the new year, how should President Trump approach the situation in Iran? What about the deal that we've made with Iran? I mean, there's a lot of questions still that need to be answered. I mean, I have confidence that the president is on the right track, but what are your predictions where that's concerned? Or what do you suppose should happen?
Well, I published an article in National Review Online on January 8th titled, Trump Should Kill the Iran Deal for the Dissidents and the Protesters.
Oh, wow.
Because we now know this huge amount of economic aid was being used for the military and to sponsor terrorism and to send troops into Syria. And then we have Iranians who can't buy food and are selling their organs to get money to live on. We can't extend a program that's hurting, a treaty. I'm sorry, correct myself, an agreement. As you and I know, it isn't even a treaty.
Right.
We can't extend this agreement that is hurting the Iranian people. But there are conservatives who are urging him to do that. I call them fake Iran deal opponents. They oppose the deal in its current form. They don't want the president to tear it up. They're arguing, we can fix it. We can extend it. We can use sanctions to get the Iranians to come back to the negotiating table. I'm just wondering, are these people on drugs? That's never going to happen.
Right. And Obama made so many promises to us about what this deal was going to accomplish, and it hasn't happened. And I think that it's time that we just really be strong on this, because that's one of the things that the president ran on, was killing that deal.
The deal does not appreciably stop Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. There's incredible evidence of cheating. But now we have to talk about how For example, the week before it was announced, Iran offered Syria a $1 billion line of credit.
Oh, my God.
It's offered hundreds of millions of dollars to Hezbollah and Hamas and Islamic Jihad to conduct terrorism and to attack Israel. That's where the sanctions relief is going.
And money towards North Korea, right?
I think there's no doubt that they're helping finance North Korea's missile and nuclear programs. They've done it in the past for missiles. We know the Iranians have helped finance North Korea's missile program.
Okay, so what's going on with the protests there? I mean, have things died down? It's kind of hard to know exactly what's going on. Should they die down where the protests are concerned?
I spoke to an Iranian American last night who has contacts in Iran.
Okay.
She thinks they're continuing at a lower level, but we both agree they're probably going to be crushed.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the protest movement is done. My friend, Dr. Michael Odin, you should have him on the show.
Okay, we'll take note. Okay.
He's been saying for many years he's an Iran expert, and the Iranians have called for him to be executed. Odin has been saying for a long time, it's not a matter of if, but when this regime is overthrown. There is a huge underground movement that hates this regime. They hate the theocracy. They yearn. They know about the West from their smartphones, and they yearn to overthrow this regime. And these protests are going to bring that day closer.
You know, but when we talk about this underground movement, I wonder if there isn't something that, you know, a lot of us are looking at this. I mean, I've got friends whose family is from Iran who, you know, they're so pleased and happy to be here in the States, in the United States. But at the same time, they're looking at what's happening there. And of course, their heart goes out. I mean, if this were happening in Italy as a second generation Italian, or any generation, I suppose, you know, I would be very concerned what was happening to the Italian people. So they're looking at this and they want to help. But we don't know what to do here sometimes if we want to help that movement. Right now, as you said, it's probably gone more underground than anything else. But is there anything that can be done to help?
Well, first of all, we have to stand with the protesters, and that's what President Trump has done. You may have seen his editorials by former Obama officials. I think Susan Rice was one. The president should support the protesters by being quiet.
Yeah, right. That's real support.
Yeah, that's obviously the wrong approach.
Yeah.
And I think we have to shame the Europeans to speak out, and they won't, because they don't want to admit that they were wrong, and because John Kerry locked the Iran deal down with large trade deals, including sales of Airbus aircraft.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Those funds are helping kill the Iranian people, helping kill protesters, arrest protesters, torture protesters. Trump has to shame the Europeans to do the right thing and stand with the protesters.
You know, you would think that would be something easy to do, you know, is to shame them, or they would feel shame on their own without any, you know, nudging from anyone else. But, you know, Fred, when I look at, I mean, there's so many things going on there that break my heart. When I know how gays are treated there, we know how women are treated there, we know how the people in general are treated there. But let's just say the gays and the women alone, with all the groups that we have here who are closing their eyes, and the left who supposedly supports gay rights and women's rights and so forth, and the oppression that these people, just those two groups themselves, live under in that country, you would think that there would be a louder outcry. You would think that something greater was coming from the left, other than saying, support them by your silence.
I know, it's stunning. And I think many of them subscribe to the far left view of Barack Obama that Iran is a victim of American policy. Remember Obama's apology tours, and he would go to the UN every year. He never called Iran a state sponsor of terror. Instead, he basically apologized and said that Iran has, you know, understandable grievances with the United States. No, it doesn't. It is a state sponsor of terror. It is a regime that is oppressing and murdering its people because of their fanatic support of radical Islam.
So when you talk about this, that there's still this underground movement going on, how can they be successful? Because there's so much, I mean, you talk to your friend who still has contacts in Iran, but aren't those contacts, or isn't that exposure to the West and what's happening all around the world, hasn't that been somewhat squelched by the Iranian government? Are they still able to receive communications, to receive information, world news, that kind of thing?
There are a lot of reports that young Iranians who are 60% of the population, 60% under 30. They're finding technological ways around censorship and throttling of the internet. And it's a matter of time. I'm afraid that it may be a long time, but I think it's just a matter of time before this regime is overthrown.
I really wish there was more we could do, but I mean, just talking about it and it is a lot right there. And like your article that I did read, in fact, that's why you're on the show today, that was in National Review for our audience sake. Check it out by Fred Fleitz in National Review. The title is "Trump Should Kill the Iran Deal, or Nuclear Deal for the Dissidents and the Protesters." Great piece. That was the impetus of having you on, but we love having you on anyway. Check out securefreedom.org as well. And his Twitter is Fred Fleitz, Fleitz. Fred, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You're just there's so much information here. I love picking your brain. Thank you and keep up the good work.
Anytime. Thanks, Rose.
All right. Bye-bye now.